Hi there, I'm Bob Gager, Group Product Manager at Adobe Systems for Photoshop Elements. And for Halloween this year, I'm going to give you a quick little tutorial on how to create a zombie using Photoshop Elements 9. To start off with, we need a good subject shot to turn into our zombie. I'm going to go search for a shot I know I have of my son Andy at a beach using the search tool in the Elements Organizer to search for Andy and beach. Here we go. And go ahead and open that up in the Photoshop Elements editing environment. And take this shot of Andy and start to mess with it a bit. So the first thing I want to do is actually remove this background. A real quick and easy way to do that is to grab my quick selection tool and just kind of drag around the outside of Andy, and the quick selection tool goes and automatically finds the edges for me and automatically selects wherever I'm dragging. Now I've got a little extra. You can see it's selected some of his shoulder. I didn't want that. If I hold the Option key down and then drag, it'll actually remove from the selection wherever I drag instead of adding to it. So I'm going to go deselect his arm and go deselect his hand, and you can see pretty quickly here I've got a nice selection. Oops, we want to add his shoulder here, get that too. A nice selection around Andy, maybe a little more on his shoulder. Oops, undo that. There we go. Kind of get it right on his shoulder there. And now I just hit the delete key. And I've gotten rid of Andy. Actually, I want to undo that because I want to first change this into a regular layer from the background. Because then when I hit the delete key, instead of adding in my background color, it actually just deletes that part of the image and makes it transparent. So now we've got Andy all by himself without that beach background, and we want to do some fun things to him now. First fun thing we want to do is actually give him a skull face. So here I've got an image of a skull. I've got my project bin and I'm showing my Zombiefy folder. But I can just find a skull, simple drag and drop it onto Andy. Adds a new layer to the image. Actually, it adds a smart layer. We're going to do some editing, so we don't want a smart layer, so we just select Simplify Layer. Grab my Move tool, move it over kind of maybe about there. We're going to do some resizing in a little bit, but let's get it kind of about where we want it. And then I want to get rid of some of this white border around it. So I'm going to use my Magic Selection brush. Select that layer and just simply click on the white. Photoshop Elements goes and automatically selects the rest of the white content of that part of that layer. I hit the delete key and it's gone. I want to get rid of that little bit of white right there and that white in the mouth to kind of clean this up and make a few spots kind of see through. There we go. So now I've got my skull ready to go. And what I actually want to do here is, instead of just deleting parts of the skull so Andy's head shows through, I want to use what's called a layer mask. Now layer masks are brand new in Photoshop Elements 9, and layer masks let you control what part of a layer shows or is hidden without actually editing the pixels of the layer itself. So right here we've got the layer mask icon down at the bottom of the layers panel, and I'm just going to go ahead and add the layer mask. Creates a layer mask right here, fills it full of white. On layer masks, when you paint on a layer mask, when you paint with white, you see that layer. When you paint with black, it's transparent. So I'm going to grab black as my foreground color. I'm going to grab my pen, and I'm going to start painting. I've got kind of a soft edge pen, so the edges are kind of nice. I want to bring some of Andy's chin back here. There's a little too much skull action going on. And maybe around the top. I actually want to kind of remove the center of his eye, and then I'm going to move this skull so Andy's eye kind of shows through. And then maybe also shrink it down a little bit so it kind of matches the size of his head more. Bring the side in a little bit. Kind of mess around until things are kind of proportionally sized right. I can twist things if I want, rotate them a little bit to get them to line up just perfect. And something like that. Go ahead and accept it. I want to do a little more painting to get some of these edges better, so back, grab my brush, select my layer mask, and paint some more with black to kind of bring bring some of Andy's face back where he wasn't really there before. Maybe bring that other eye out. There we go. Isn't that nice? So now he's got a skull face. Kind of interesting, but we don't want to stop there. Let's give him some interesting textures on his body. So let's start maybe with an image of some crinkly paint. So again, I just grab this cracked paint image, drag it from my project bin up onto my image, resize it till it's appropriate. We're going to use this crackly paint as the texture for Andy's body. So I can resize it to kind of fit where I need, rotate it a bit if I need, all that kind of good stuff. Go ahead and select that. And then again, create a layer mask. First I will simplify my layer. And I'm going to add a layer mask. This time, instead of using this icon down here, I'm going to go up to the Layers menu, select Layer, Layer Mask, and do a Hide All. And that way it'll create the layer mask with black instead of white, so it's completely hidden. And then I want to come over here, grab my brush, set white as my foreground color, and then I can start painting on his body just where I want that kind of crackly texture to show through. I don't really want it everywhere, so I'm just going to kind of paint around here, kind of get it to come through. There we go. Now he's looking kind of nasty. And the real cool thing about layer masks is if I make a mistake and kind of paint where I don't want to paint, I just switch back to black, paint again, and I can bring it right back. So it's a non-destructive way of editing and composing multiple images together. So there we've got kind of some nastiness going on. Clean up around the bathing suit a little bit. Another interesting thing I might want to do is instead of just having normal blending, this little pull down here is what we call the blending mode. There's lots of different ways that I can control how Elements blends different layers together. If I just want sort of the brightness information or the luminosity to come through, I can select luminosity, and you can see we lost a lot of that red color. I can pick something like overlay that's going to give it a nice interesting effect where I still get some of his skin color coming through, but I'm overlaying sort of this crackly paint look on top of his body. And I can also tune things down by changing the opacity. Maybe I want to kind of let a little more skin come through. Something like that. So he's looking pretty nasty. Want to do the same kind of thing for his arms, maybe a different texture for each arm. How about some yellow nastiness for his right arm? So again, just drag and drop. Simplify the layer. Over here again, Layer Mask under my Layers menu. Hide All. Grab my pen tool. Grab a little bit of white as my foreground color. And again, where I paint, that layer will show through, and where I don't paint because it's black, that layer will be hidden. So I can kind of do some texturing of here, get his arm kind of nasty. And again, I don't want normal blending. Maybe let's just try luminosity so some of that cracking comes through. We could even pop down here, paint a little more white to get this to kind of blend a little more as well. So we've got multiple layers blending together here, kind of a more interesting look. And maybe one more texture. Let's see, how about some rust for his left arm? Again, just a quick drag and drop. Simplify the layer. Add a layer mask under our Layers menu. And I'm going to again do a Hide All. And then just come back in with white with my layer mask selected. And just paint on top of his arm in the layer mask with white so that rusty part of the image shows through. There we go. And maybe pick a different blending mode. Try overlay, maybe try hard light. That's kind of nasty. So with just a couple layers of textures, layer masks, some selections around different blending modes, I've turned Andy into kind of a nasty looking guy. The only thing that's left is to put a background behind him. Up here in my content panel, if I double click that, it'll expand. If I search by type and by backgrounds, I get a long list of backgrounds that we ship with Photoshop Elements. Applying any particular background is as simple as dragging and dropping it onto your image, and we'll go ahead and put it as a background layer. So I could have something like that, which is kind of interesting. I know, yeah, here's this desert road one, so I'm going to drag and drop that instead. So instead of the orange stuff, I've got a kind of desert road going on, and I can resize it, move it around. Maybe I want to drop it down a little bit. Oops, no, I gotta make sure I select the right layer. Oops, redo, and select that background layer. Go ahead and simplify it so we can drag it around. There we go. Now we can move it down to get it just where we want it. Maybe drag it up a little bit as well. Kind of move it around to get the image feel that you want. And there we go. Now we've taken Andy, turned him into a nice zombie, and put him on top of a nice desert road. So there you go, Photoshop Elements 9. Take your favorite picture, turn it into a zombie.